Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Konrad Gorlinski and this is the news. Yesterday, regulations aimed at protecting persons who report irregularities at EU institutions, for example, entered into force. However, the new protective umbrella will not apply to those who refer matters to the media. Journalists are pointing out that this new solution will not only have absolutely no effect in the fight against possible corruption in the European Union, but will actually enable even more corrupt practices. The directive, as reported by the Deutsche Welle news portal, is to provide protection to people who report irregularities related to, inter alia, public officials, money laundering, corruption, or misspending of EU funds. Reports are to be considered by a specially designated impartial person. This is to be used to settle matters inside the company or office. However, the issue of barring contact with the media raises reservations. A person can contact the press without losing protection, but only in the event that he or she is not able to receive a reaction internally. Yes, a system of collective political omerta. We defend our own as we defend independence, as Newman said. And we don't care about any kind of decency, not even the most elementary. All this has taken place just 2 weeks after journalist Jean Quatremer was informed about conflicts of interest and trading in judges' influence in the CJEU. Politicians and officials from the highest levels of the European People's Party, the largest faction in the European Parliament, are set to be playing a significant role in the practice. In the context of the latter scandal described by Libération, irregularities, various meetings, a strange coterie, some familia, hunting, lobbyists, influences, and abuse. Well, in my opinion, all this should be subject to some sort of public scrutiny. In the political salon program, Stanisław Janecki pointed to certain management methods he witnessed in the European Union. According to the journalist, many key discussions and decisions were made strictly by phone before official meetings were held. When it ceased to be useful, informal meetings such as those at the Chambord Castle began. Hunting and such stories. This is how the EU works. That is, all institutions are basically a sham. In the context of the scandal at the highest levels of the European Union disclosed by Libération, the question arises, who will actually benefit from the new regulations? The whole world is talking about Ukraine's Donetsk region, which is in danger of being invaded by Russia. But even now, the area is really the capital of a self-proclaimed Russian-backed separatist republic. It was carved out in vicious fighting that erupted in 2014. The ongoing conflict has killed some 14,000 people and displaced thousands more. Russian flags are seen in the city's central square and on top of the main administrative buildings. The busts of killed separatists like Alexander Zakharchenko and Arseny Pavlov, who went by the nom de guerre Motorola, were placed in the territory of the World War II Memorial. The Donetsk airport was a totemic battlefield for Ukrainian government troops and Russian-backed separatists. Ukrainian troops had held out there for 242 days since the end of May 2014, until they were forced to surrender the airport to the separatists. Once home to FC Shakhtar Donetsk, an ultra-modern soccer stadium, the Donbass Arena has not been in use since the fighting erupted. In 2012, it welcomed thousands of football fans for the Euro 2012 championship, but now the area surrounding the 52,000-seat stadium is empty and unkempt. Donetsk is an industrial city founded in 1869 by the Welsh businessman John Hughes, who built a steel plant there. A small village called Yuzovka, named after John Hughes, grew quickly, and by the beginning of the 20th century, Yuzovka ran 9 coal mines and the largest steel mill in southern Russia, making it one of the Russian Empire's most important industrial centers. Donetsk got its present name in 1961, during the period of relative liberalization under Nikita Khrushchev, who succeeded Stalin in the Kremlin. Since Ukraine became an independent state in 1991, the Donetsk region has developed further and gained prestige as the hometown of some of Ukraine's richest industrialists. Across Europe, thousands of people took to the streets to protest against sanitary restrictions. Although the number of vaccinated people in many countries exceeds 80%, the pandemic is still growing. Many countries are introducing further restrictions on the unvaccinated or lockdowns that apply to entire populations. The protests occurred in, among others, Italy, France, Germany, Spain, and Belgium. In Italy, only people with a COVID pass can get a seat in a restaurant. Only vaccinated persons and those who have received a negative COVID test in the past 48 hours can visit cinemas, museums, or clubs. Similar restrictions apply in France. The government there wants to introduce restrictions on public transport, against which thousands of Parisians protested. I wish to protect our freedoms, and I want to prevent a social pass. Today we have a health pass, which will become a vaccination pass. And tomorrow, a social pass, a pass to have social rights. To travel, I refuse to live in this kind of world. Hence, I'm not vaccinated, and I don't want our children, the future generations, to live in a world of controls, where they're told what to do, how to do it. Voila, simply put, freedom. Almost 59,000 new infections have been reported in France. Over 80% of the population has taken the vaccine there. Spain can also boast about a similarly high vaccination rate, yet more than 33,000 corona cases have been detected there. Opponents also gathered there to protest compulsory vaccinations. I'm not against vaccines, and I'm not a denier. Yes, I'm strongly opposed to the restrictions and to the curbs on our freedoms that we have been suffering from since the pandemic began 2 years ago. The end does not justify the means. I'm here because I'm against being injected with a substance that I don't know what it is, so we don't know its side effects in the short to medium and long term. And a lot of people are dying from this vaccine, and the media doesn't explain this. This vaccine is killing people. Meanwhile, clashes with the police took place during protests in Germany. Last week, the German parliament ordered its health services staff to get vaccinated by mid-March at the latest, and they are considering extending this obligation to the society at large. Belgians also took to the streets. Some emphasize that vaccines are not the only way to fight the virus.
We are here today because we do not agree with the COVID safety cat. We think the COVID safety cat is discriminating. It makes a distinction between people who has taken the vaccine and people who don't take the vaccine. So it's an apartheid regime, you could say. And everyone has the freedom to take the vaccine, yes or no. And by now we can see that the vaccine has a lot of effects that are not good. I mean, it harms people's health.
Meanwhile, as side effects from the vaccines are becoming more evident, Pfizer has banked on there being more, as it has purchased the pharmaceutical giant Arena in a $6.7 billion deal. Arena Pharmaceuticals specializes in treating inflammation, and among those, inflammation of the heart. The Netherlands now is introducing a strict lockdown today, which is expected to last at least until mid-January. Among other things, restaurants will be closed, and museums, and even schools. In the Netherlands, 85% of the population received at least one vaccine dose, but less than 10% of the population has taken the booster. And finally, the UN Human Rights Council voted on Friday, December 17th, to set up an independent investigation into abuses in the Ethiopian conflict, after a senior UN official said there have been violations on all sides and mass arrests under a government crackdown. The resolution, brought by the European Union and backed by Western states, passed despite objections from Ethiopia, which dismissed accusations of abuses and said it had already cooperated in investigations into the year-old war. The vote on the resolution was 21 states in favor, 15 against, including China and Russia, with 11 abstentions at the 47-member forum in Geneva. The Slovenian ambassador, Anita Pipan, spoke on behalf of the European Union.
In light of the prolonged conflict situation and given the seriousness of the allegations, it is clear to us that the international community has to assume its responsibilities and that this Council has to fulfill its mandated role, including with regard to prevention.
The resolution establishes a 3-member panel of experts for 1 year to collect evidence and identify those responsible for violations with a view to future prosecutions. Just before the vote, Ethiopia's envoy to the UN in Geneva, Zenebe Kebede, dismissed what he called a politically motivated text.
We are appalled by the way some of the interventions were made before this August assembly. They do not comprehend the gravity of the allegation they carry in misleading the international community. The accusations leveled against my country are unfounded and disregard the facts on the ground.
Earlier, he denounced what he said was a series of abuses by rebellious forces from the northern Tigray region and said the government would not work with the proposed panel. Thousands of civilians have died and millions have fled in the conflict between the federal government and rebellious forces, including fighters loyal to the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the TPLF, which dominated Ethiopia's ruling coalition for nearly 30 years. As usual, thanks for tuning in this evening. I hope you stick around for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and other programs. But from me, it's have a wonderful week ahead.